Hello, welcome back to the Blessed Mess podcast. We're in a little bit of a different place today. I'm in my bedroom. I just redid the whole place. Now I have plenty of space in here to, I don't know, chill and film in here if I want to. And it's a lot more comfy in here than the chair that I originally had. So I'm liking this a lot. I just want to talk about my testimony. I think it's super important for every Christian to, have that story to share with others, of how they developed their faith and how they have grown in their faith and how, just where they started, I guess. Yeah, I just feel like sharing your testimony is super important, and I just wanted to do that today. Short, sweet little video. And just stay tuned for next week when we're going to have the Summer Lovin' part 2 out. We're going to be talking about a different type of love, so just stick around and listen to that for next week. So to start, I guess I'm just going to start at the very beginning. Growing up, I went to church, went through the motions, did everything, and thought that was enough. I was satisfied, whatever. And then I had a really great friend of mine. She no longer lives around here, but she was a very, very great friend of mine. Throughout elementary school, she would always invite me to her church, and her church was just so much fun. They had a really cool kids program that I was able to be plugged in with, and she always invited me to bigger events that they would do, and they would always just do the coolest stuff. And so that kind of dipped my toes into this new church that I was very interested in. But I was still going to my old church because I liked it. I had nothing wrong with it. It was a great church. And then my mom had a couple of her friends invite her to this new church as well. And she heard me talk about it, always talked about great things with it. So she started going, and we both started going. And we were hooked, from the beginning. We just absolutely love this church. Not saying that there's anything wrong with my old church. It was just this newer church was just a better connection for me and for my mom. We just had a better connection with it. There was nothing that was wrong with the other church. It was just a better fit for us. And that's one thing that I want to preface before I continue is that I'm going to be talking about my older church or my newer church. And it doesn't matter to me what church you're involved in, what denomination you're involved in, as long as you are as long as you're a Christian and you're trying to love Jesus and you're trying to love people like Jesus, you can do whatever you want. That's one thing. I never want to be oh, you go to this church, oh, if only you went to this church, you'd do so much better. No, I'm never going to be that way, and I never want to come off that way that I will ever judge you for what church you go to, because as long as you have that pursuit for Jesus, who cares where you go? As long as you're getting that word and you're getting fed and you are producing that same great thing and pursuing the Great Commission, and you're telling others about what you're learning, go to whatever church works for you. The church is not a building. The church is the people involved. The church is not just a building. It is the community within that building. So go to whatever church you like, as long as you're getting something good out of it. I'm so happy for you. That's amazing. So that's what I just wanted to preface that at the beginning, that I never want it to be oh, my old church was this crappy church. No, I absolutely loved my old church and I absolutely love my new church. It was just this newer church was just a better fit for me personally. And it's perfectly okay if you go to my church and you're I was not a big fan. That's completely fine, because everyone has their own preference as to what they like, and each church is going to do something differently. So it's really just based on whatever you like. But yeah, I just want to preface that. So yeah, I started going to this new church and I was like, okay, this is pretty chill. At this point, I was in fifth grade. So this was gonna be like my last year involved in like this smaller like kids program. And then after I like move on from that, I would go on to just going into regular church, like sixth grade and on, but being plugged in with their youth group program. I would have to have youth group every Sunday night. So I'd go to church in the morning and then go to youth group Sunday night. And I absolutely loved it there. There were great people pouring into us, and I absolutely loved it. It was just a different environment that I wasn't used to. The 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 pastor, the lead pastor at my church, um, he had just moved to DuBois, my town, to be the new lead pastor. And his daughter, Claire, as you know, the special guest from last week, um, started going to church and youth group too. And that's where me and Claire really connected from the start. I tried to. Funny story about how me and Claire met. She went to the same elementary school as me. We are in fifth grade. She shows up to school the first day. Before I even get to school, my mom's like, "Hey, just give me a heads up. Like the new pastor's daughter's gonna be at school. Like she's new. Like try and make her feel like warm and welcome, whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, totally." So I go to walk up to Claire and be like, "Hi, like my name's Maria. Um, it's nice to meet you. I heard like your dad's a new pastor. You know the whole spiel." And I go up to talk to her, and she just gives me this blank stare. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Maria. Nice to meet you." And she's just like, so it was a really funny way for me and Claire to start off our friendship because she was super shy. She'd moved a lot previously, and I was like, man, this girl hates me. But no, she actually was just super shy and nervous, and it was her first day, and she was probably super overwhelmed. But yeah, me and Claire got really close. Through our youth group, and I ended up meeting a lot of my very like core inner circle people through my youth group. So that's a little ahead of the game here, but so start going to youth group, and it's like the first few weeks of me starting youth group, and we had um this awesome lady in our church running our youth group for the first few weeks, and then all of a sudden there's this new guy who's going to be our new youth pastor. And so he comes in and we're all just like, what the heck? And he is my current youth pastor, Austin, and he is the coolest guy. He has impacted my life so tremendously through our youth group, and I will forever be so grateful for him because I would not have the friends that I have. I would not have these battle buddies that I have without him connecting me with these people. And I wouldn't have learned nearly, not nearly as much stuff as I have through him because he's just amazing, and everything he does to pour into the kids within our program is absolutely amazing. But he makes his plan for us to go to this church camp this next summer. Um, it's called NTS camp. It we went to, they do like a couple of different NTS camps like around the country, but we were going to this one in New York. So we go on this trip, and I can't even describe how different it was. Um because the church that I used to go to was vastly different from this new church that I was going to, and this was like, there was my church, and then this was like an extreme level of we are on fire for Jesus, and it was crazy. Like, I went home talking about this camp for weeks. It changed me so tremendously. Like, I can't even explain like how much that 1 week absolutely moved throughout my life and completely changed my path, my course. If I didn't go to that camp, I don't know where I would be right now. And that sounds crazy because it's literally a church, it's literally a summer camp, but the amount of stuff that I just absolutely like completely absorbed, and how much it completely changed me is crazy. Um, it was such an amazing experience. So I went to that my first year, and it was crazy amazing. And we go again the next year, and that next year, like, I'm starting to like learn the ropes, like learn all of the things that go down during camp. Like, usually either the last night of camp or the night before the last night of camp, there's this dedication decision night, whatever you want to call it, where they're gonna ask, like, would you like to dedicate your life to Christ? Is, like, Jesus Christ your Lord and Savior? You get to decide that. Like, you get the option to do that, and obviously you don't have to. That's a complete, like, decision on your part. First year this is happening, I was super confused on what was going on because I've never experienced anything like this before, ever, and it was a lot. But everybody around me was crying. Even the people who didn't make that decision, everybody I felt like was crying. That's like what we call it as like we've gotten older, we call it like the cry night because everybody is always crying. But this first year, I was like, I don't know what's going on. But whenever I came back the next year, I was like, man, this is a huge, like, powerful night. And I started to really see it all. And so that week, God was really just moving in my life. And that night, it was my seventh grade year. It was the next year. We came back. It was the year after seventh grade, I guess. Um, we came back, and that night, I decided to give my life to Christ and decide that like Jesus is my Lord and Savior and that I'd be saved. And it was so like powerful and moving. And they did this cool thing. Usually they do like you like close your eyes and you like put your hand up. And that way, like, your youth pastor and your leaders know like who actually made that decision so that you can talk about it later. But um it's a really cool like moment. But this particular year, we did that, but then they also had anybody who made those decisions walk across the stage. So it was like you were going from your old life to your brand new life. Like, you walk across the stage, like leaving the old behind and walking toward the new. And it was a super cool like analogy that they did with it. But I was so nervous, like having to walk across the stage because I don't think y'all realize how many people were involved in this camp. Like, there were four teams. There was we were always on blue team. There's blue, red, green, and yellow, or gold. I think they called them gold. Um, and like just within blue team, there are probably three or four churches, and then there were four other color teams. So just like to put that in perspective, there were so many churches at this place. It was huge. And we like lived on a campus, like a I forget what it was called. I think it was like Houghton College. We lived like on a college campus for a week. So that just kind of shows how many people we were filling this camp with. There were so many. Um, and so that camp, it was just absolutely amazing, like how much God like moved in my life. I went home that week talking about camp even more than I did the first year, and it was crazy. It was the best experience of my life. Truly, I can't even form that one into words. And so that was like the start of like the real start of my faith journey. I really started pursuing God from that point on. And they always talk about if you grew up Christian, um, as like a teenager or through like youth programs, they always talk about like the camp high, where you go to camp, you are absolutely on fire for Jesus that week, and then past that week for like the next few weeks to like a month. Um, you feel like camp high, like you are doing everything you can to be connected with God because you don't want that high to leave because you're going a week straight of being surrounded by those people who are like minded like you, pursuing the exact same thing, equally yoked, and you are just getting all that information and all that absolute like love for Jesus is just pouring out of you or into you, and it's the craziest experience. But then you just want to continue like meeting that high that you get at camp. And so after camp, you have that camp high. You're on this next level, wanting to be the best Christian you can be. And obviously, it starts to fade a little bit more, and you get into your normal routine. But the camp high was real that year, and I didn't understand it still, like that the camp high was a thing. And I'd get really disappointed when the camp high would start to fade once I got back to school and did all the normal things. Um, but I kept a really strong faith through that. Um, Eighth grade, it was a really hard year. Like things started to get like really hard for me. Through that school year, I was super stressed a lot with school, and I just put like a lot of extra pressure on myself. Um, and that was like the first time in my life where I started to doubt God. Like not even like consciously, like I just couldn't give my all. I couldn't fully trust God, and there were a lot of things that were kind of rocky, and my mental health was at a pretty low spot. So it was just really hard for me to fully trust God with everything in that point in my life. And then ninth and 10th and 11th grade were good. Things were a little easier. It was a lot easier for me to trust God, but I wasn't fully in it yet. I was not like fully being able to trust God completely with my entire life. Like there was still something that I was holding on to just because like I've mentioned before, like I'm such a control freak, and I just couldn't fully let go cuz when I fully let go, I have zero control, and I just didn't like the idea of that. So I just couldn't do it. I couldn't fully let go and let God do what he needed to do in my life cuz I still wanted a little bit of control. Um but like I've mentioned before, this is where everything in my spiritual journey really was tested, and it helped me grow tremendously this next season that happened in my life. It was the hardest season of my life, and it was the things that I had to deal with were the hardest things I've ever had to deal with ever. However, it also helped me grow as a person and grow in my faith tremendously, and I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I probably wouldn't have this podcast without this season that I've went through. It was about a year ago now, from now. My family completely split apart. There was a lot of distrust and broken trust, and zero loyalty throughout my family, and specifically with my parents. And my parents decided to separate and split and go through with a divorce, which was extremely hard for me going into my senior year of high school with dealing with all of that, because if it's like my freshman or sophomore year in high school, that's one thing where I have the normal um like I'm a swimmer, so I had like swim meets, and I was an equipment manager for the football team, so I'd have, football games I need to go to, things like that. That my parents would sometimes go to, but with your senior year, there's so many extra things that your parents have to be involved in that just made things so much harder for me. To start off, like I started off, this was literally a month before I go back to school. This all blew up in my face, and we go back to school. We're doing stuff for like senior things, and there's homecoming court. So, with homecoming, first day, like first few days of school, we have a senior meeting, and one of the things we have to do is we have to vote for 10 girls to be on homecoming court. I got nominated, which was amazing. It was a great experience. I loved it so much, and I'm so thankful that I got voted. But it was also extremely difficult. Having to That was just one of like the bigger events in my life where I just wanted things to be normal and they weren't. And swim meets were hard throughout the year. Um, a lot of like the senior stuff at the end of the year, like I had an honor society banquet, or I had my swim banquets or whatever, bigger like senior things that um, you want things to be great for you for those. And it was hard. So that was one like really hard thing that I had to really put all of my trust in God, because I would really try and control the situation however I could, and it would still blow up in my face. There were a lot of things that I didn't do anything wrong, but it continually felt like I was doing things wrong. So it was really frustrating trying to have this control over this situation and trying to make the right decisions through it all. And it's still blowing up in your face because I didn't have any control. Like, that's just kind of how it was. And once that started to improve a little bit, I had another really hard thing happen. My grandma was diagnosed with mouth cancer, and she had to go through really bad treatment, so that was hard to see, but she is good now. But that was another thing that really stretched my faith, and I had zero control over that as well, and I couldn't do anything to help her. And I just really had to trust God that He was going to provide for her and for the rest of my family, and that things were going to be okay, because I had no control in that. And another, I'm going to be more vague for this one, but another thing that just was really hard for me was I had something really great in my life just get taken away. Um, it was really good, then it really wasn't. But that was I think that was the thing that was hardest for me, because here I was thinking that this was such a great thing in my life compared to everything else. Like, this was just like the thing that was really great in my life, and I was very happy with it, and it just got taken away from me, and I had zero control of fixing it, and I had zero control in how I felt towards it. I had zero control at all, and it was really, really hard to go through that, especially. Um, but that with all of those really hard things, I fully was able to be like, okay, God, I see you. I know what's going on here. All of these things that have happened recently, I cannot control, and I cannot handle them on my own, and I have to lean on you, and I have to pray that you will provide, because I cannot control it on my own. Sorry. um so yeah, that I think really completely transformed my faith journey. It's really stretched me in my faith journey, like really pushed me to do other things like better, and just really um change what I've been doing. But yeah, I say I don't have like a super like um overwhelming drastic like testimony. Like, I just jumped into this new faith in like 7th grade, and I thought I was doing great. But like other things have happened that have really transformed me into a different person, and a better person. So, I guess my one takeaway for this is that you don't have to have some like big testimony to be able to share the gospel. That's one takeaway. And two, God is, if you are waking up every day, God is not done with you. Like, you are still going to have so much growth every single day in your faith journey if you just listen to Him. Like, I thought that I was doing perfectly fine in my faith journey. And then all of this, like, multiple things, like, happened. And I realized I still had so much growth left. And I am now very, very thankful for these really tough things that have happened in my life, because I would not be where I am today. I would not have as strong of a faith as I do today if it weren't for these really hard situations that I had to go through to realize that I still needed to grow. And then I still needed to change and develop and become a better Christian through these hard times. It's so important that I learned this, and it took me a while with all these like hard things, is that you can fall down, and that's gonna happen. It's not like an if, it's a when. It will happen. But it's so important to know how you are going to respond to it. If you are going to respond and you are going to just sit there and stay there and wallow in that pain that you're feeling, you're never, ever, 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 ever gonna grow from that. Because you're going to be like, oh, poor me, I can't get anything. No, like, you can have so much growth in those hard times, but it all depends on how you are going to react to it. Truly. And I thank Jesus every day that I did not sit there and wallow in that pain. And it is only by God's grace that I did get back up, because I would have just sat there if I didn't start thinking of, wow, look at all the things I should be grateful for that God has provided and given me. That is something to think about. But yeah, that is all that I got for today. Just a shorter video all about my testimony. It's a little bit of a unconventional testimony, I'd say, but just basically my faith journey so far. I wouldn't even say it's like my testimony. It's just where I've been going with Jesus so far. So, thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to have Summer Lovin' Part 2 with our special guest, once again, Claire Trethaway. Thank you guys for watching or listening. This is a Bus Mess podcast with your host, Maria Buskirk.